So you're fresh off of summer, you're coming back and you're heading back to work and your kids are going back to school. So what happens to the memories, to the relationships, and to the experiences that you've had together over the last couple months? Well, my fear for you, brother, is that those relationships will start to dwindle as we get back into the routine of the day to day, back to work, back to school, back to life. So in this episode, I want to give you 5 simple steps that you can implement right now to build and strengthen relationships with your kids. This episode of the Dad's Making a Difference podcast starts right now. Hello, my friend. Welcome to another episode of the Dad's Making a Difference podcast. I'm glad that you're here. We are rolling right along. It is August, and I don't know when you're listening to this episode, but regardless of when, I want to thank you for being here. We are rolling. Like I said, we are 70 episodes into the DMD podcast, and I couldn't be more grateful for the opportunity to be here. For you who are listening to this right now, thank you for being here. I appreciate you. And over the last 70 episodes, I have been challenged to grow. I have had amazing conversations with so many guests, but one thing remains constant, that we are still on a mission and we still have a lot of work to do. Men are suffering in isolation. Men are going throughout their day-to-day life as a zombie, just walking through the steps of what it means to be a father, being a husband, being a community member, and a professional. And I want to challenge you right now, if you're listening to this, to reach out and stop working in isolation. You know, over the last 70 episodes, we've had these powerful conversations with guests who have come on and challenged us in our physical, emotional, spiritual, intellectual, financial, and professional growth. But like I said, we're not done. And I thank you, the guys who are listening to this right now, because you have challenged me to be better every single step of the way, every episode, every short, every message. I want to thank you for your feedback. And as we move into a new and exciting season for Dad's Making a Difference this fall, I'm going to add something different. I'm going to follow what you've given me, and I'm going to give you more of what you're asking for. Yes, we are going to continue on the interviews every week, man. These are so powerful. The guests that we have are amazing. If you have not subscribed to this podcast, what are you doing? Go right now, subscribe, and then dive into these amazing conversations. But I'm going to add something that some of our listeners, I thank you for reaching out and sending me this feedback, leaving it in the reviews, is they want to hear more applicable, actionable, short takeaways that they can do right now. Takeaways that tie into the conversations that we've been having. And so here's my challenge to myself, and here's my challenge to you. We're going to continue on with these episodes, these amazing conversations, but I'm going to bring to you a breakdown of my biggest takeaways from some of our conversations and give you actionable steps each week in a shorter, easier to digest episode to add to your Dad's Making a Difference experience. So I'm excited to jump into this new chapter, and it starts today. Today, I want to talk to you about relationships, and specifically relationships with your kids. Like I said, it is August. We are back into it, back into the routine for many of us of school, of work. We're back from vacation. And what we started to realize over the last couple of weeks of our summer vacations with our families is that it was so much easier when we were around our kids all the time to build a relationship with them. Well, at times it was. I'm going to be honest here, guys. There are times where my kids are around me every single day of the summer, and it's hard to build some relationships. Dad needs some space. And you know what? They do too. That being said, in the summer, with the lack of structure, with the lack of kids running to activities, with almost the forced proximity of our families with each other, we get to experience new things. This summer, my family and we got to go on multiple camping excursions. We love to camp. We love to get into the Rocky Mountains. If you follow me on Instagram at either Fight the Dad Bod or Dad's Making a Difference, you get to see a glimpse into these experiences. For you, you have your own experiences. Maybe it's a road trip. Maybe it's a short weekend getaway. Maybe it's camping like us. Maybe it's a trip around the world. Whatever it is, you're creating memories and experiences with your kids during the summer months that you don't get to do other times. And I'm extremely grateful for the time that I have with my family. But now we're getting back into the routine. Kids are going back to school, and we find ourselves getting sucked into the day-to-day. And what I mean by that is getting sucked into our old routines, our old way of life, getting up in the morning, the programmed conversations in the morning, the off to work we go, off to school you go. We get back at the end of the day. Everyone's so tired. We're no longer talking together. We're no longer eating together. And we're living in isolation within the same house. Why is that? Well, it's because we struggle as men to build relationships with our kids. Now, you might be listening to this and say, Cam, no, I have great relationships with my kids. Well, you know what? I think I do too. I think I have a great relationship with my kids. I think I'm a good dad. I think you're a good dad. And even if you're listening to this right now and you think, hey, I'm not a good dad, you just need to believe that you're a good dad and start doing the work to make a change. So here's what I'm going to do today. I want to give you 5 simple ways that you can strengthen your relationship with your child or with your children as you head back into the fall this year. I think about why the summer was so easy, why it just sets up an opportunity for a bond to be created. And one of it, I'll be honest, is that we step away from the things that are distracting us most. Many of us are in jobs that we are over, that draw our energy, that suck more out of us than put more into us. Many of us have passions and desires that we are after as entrepreneurs, as business owners, as creators, inventors. Many of us have other connections and relationships that we work every day to nurture and build. And by the time we get home, we are just peopled out. Well, I don't want you to be peopled out. I want you to be able to give the attention that you need to the people who matter most, the people within the walls of your home. So today, 5 simple ways to strengthen your relationship with your child. All right, let's dive in. My first simple step, and this is the simple step that I have worked on, I'm conscious of. Kim and I went on a date night last night. Well, I don't know if we disqualified it as a date night because we started talking about the kids. And if you've listened to other episodes of this podcast, I encourage date nights, but not talking about the kids. Well, last night around the end of our meal, we're still talking about the kids and our kids' interests and how exciting it is to see them grow into their own interests. And here is my first simple step. Engage in the interests of your children. What does this mean, Cam? How do I engage in their interest? Well, first of all, you need to put dedicated time to explore what your child loves and explore and appreciate it. I'll give you an example. About 6 months ago, my son Braylon, he just got into Minecraft. I have never been a gamer. I've never been a video game guy. I've never been interested in it. I have never been able to sit down and focus long enough in front of a screen for an hour to do that. Well, my son loves Minecraft. And it was so hard for me to open up that world to him when my experience and the bias I have is, man, you should be outside. You should be outside being active. Well, what I did is I took a step back and I looked at my son's actual existence in his life. My son is one of the most active, engaged, heartfelt, empathetic kids you'll ever meet. He is in multiple sports, multiple activities. He's gone to play with friends after school almost every day. But there's a time where he just needs his time. And I started to see that him and his friends had the similar interests. And they were talking about video games and Minecraft and what are some of these other games that he was playing, Among Us, and these types of things on the computer. And he was so excited. When he would talk about it, his eyes lit up. And I thought to myself, this boy loves this stuff. And you know what? Just because he's into it now, he might not be into it forever. But I want to engage and appreciate why he's so excited. A little insight background to this. Braylon for a year and a half has been saving money. He's been picking up dog poo. He's been shoveling snow. He's been working hard. And a month ago, Braylon saved up enough money to buy a Nintendo Switch. Something that I told him a year and a half ago, I'm not buying this for you. If you want this, you need to be able to save the money to do this. And so over a year and a half, he saved birthday money. He did jobs for people, and he was so excited. He was focused on this task, keeping in mind that my kids have a responsibility that when they earn money or they're given money, go back to my episode with Rocky Lalwani. I'll talk about the importance of giving your kids money so they learn how to use it. When we give our kids money or they earn money, they take that money and they split it up, giving, saving, and spend. Well, my son saved enough in his spend jar to do this. And I was so proud of him. He worked so hard on it. And I was engaging in this interest of his, video games, Minecraft. Tell me more about this. Tell me more about this game, buddy. Can you show me? And so he logged into a free type version of it on the computer, and he showed me, and how does this work? And here's the goal that I have, and I'm going to create this. And what I saw was a parallel to my childhood. It was never video games for me, but it was Lego. I loved building things with Lego. I would go into my room, dump out the big 5-gallon pail of landmine pieces that you would step on, your feet would kill. But I'd dump out this entire pail and I'd start to build. Well, what I saw in this interest of my son was a desire to build, a desire to create, a desire to let his imagination take over. And it was incredible. Well, sure enough, Braylon last month saved enough money. So we walk into a GameStop. He throws a wad of cash on the counter and he gets himself a Nintendo Switch and Minecraft. And over the last month, I've been thoroughly enjoying our conversations about creepers and Endermen and building houses and mining iron and how to build a house and where to put this blocks and why to chop trees. Man, it has been so cool. But I had to dedicate time to do this. I had to dedicate time. So my challenge to you is dedicate time to do this. All right. So step number 1, engage in the interests of your children, dedicating and exploring and appreciating that time together. Step number 2, simple step to build and strengthen relationships with your kids, is to have regular one-on-one dates. So setting aside time for just the two of you. Wow, this challenge for me, I'm going to be completely honest. I love doing this. I love doing the one-on-one dates. I love taking Maya for nachos at a place nearby. I love going with Bray to go to the bowling alley. It just opens up enough time for us to connect together. And they feel special and they feel a bond in that moment. You need to do this with your kids. Whether you have 4 kids or 6 kids, like some of our guests, or 2 kids like I do, doesn't matter. You need to do dad dates. You need to take your kids out and take them out one at a time. Make it about them. Make it about them and about you. Actually, I'm going to tell you something that's going on right now locally, and I'm excited to bring this to more spots than where I live, but we are launching dad dates here locally. Dad's Making a Difference is launching dad dates every month. We have men who sign up, who pay every month. We sign up. We take care of all the work at Dad's Making a Difference, and we organize these activities where dads can take one of their children out to an activity. Not only does it give them the time away from the family with them and their child, but it provides a non-threatening environment to get together and network with other dads. Now that's a step up. Like that's going outside your comfort zone of maybe making new friends and having awkward conversations. We'll get into that in another episode. But what it does, it also breaks down the initial barrier of just finding something to do. I think inside in our heart, we want to do something one-on-one with our kids all the time. Well, we need to craft the time to do that. We need to build that into our week. We need to make it a non-negotiable. We need to spend that time together one-on-one. But often, I don't know about you, but of me, I will sit there and be, but what are we going to do? And I think we have this expectation as fathers where we feel we have to do something flashy. We have to take them out and spend money on them. We need to go bowling or laser tag or to the climbing wall. But you don't have to do that. It could be as simple as going for a bike ride. It could be walking the dog together for 30 minutes and just having a conversation. It does not have to include spending money. All it has to include is spending your most valuable resource, time. Time. Your kids know your time is valuable. They see you, dad. They see you rushing off to work. They see you on your phone. They see you sending messages and on calls with people. They see you a little bit stressed during the week and more relaxed on the weekend. Why do you think that is? It's because you're learning to manage your time, and they see this from you. So whether you know it or not, your kids know that time is your most valuable asset. And when you give your time to them and you designate time one-on-one, they feel valued. They feel valued. So simple step number 2 to build and strengthen relationships with your kids is to build one-on-one time each week. It's not much, guys. Start with half an hour, then build it up week by week after that. This is a challenge to you to do this in the upcoming week. I want you to reach out. If you're on Instagram or Facebook, I want you to share maybe a quick clip or a text takeaway or something of you one-on-one time with your kids, celebrating each other, and tag at Dads Making a Difference. And I want to shout you out to our community because I think that's really special that you would prioritize that right now. Hey guys, I wanted to take a moment and talk about our community of DMD brothers in the DMD Mastermind. We are men who help each other to stay focused and intentional in our pursuits of personal, professional, physical, financial, emotional, and spiritual growth. We are a community of men who bring courage, wisdom, and transparency to unfiltered conversations that challenge us to be more impactful men, to be dads making a difference. We do this through our online and in-person events where men come together to speak into each other's lives and then turn around and do the deep work to create change in their families, in their businesses, and in the community around them. If you are wondering if this community might be right for you, you can find more information on the DMD Mastermind, and you can also book a call directly with me at dmdmastermind.com. Now, let's get back to our show. Tip number 3 for simple steps for strengthening your relationship: practice active listening. Oh, this could be so hard for us. It's so easy for us to be distracted by what's going on around us, to be distracted by our phone and by the news and by the dialogue that we have at work. I want you to practice active listening with your kids. What does active listening mean? Well, I talked to Maya and I talked to Braylon, and one of the things that drives me absolutely up the wall, and I think this comes from my background in education and I worked in an elementary school, middle school, now high school. When I don't have eye contact with someone, I never feel like they're listening to me. I feel like they might be hearing one ear out the other. And with my kids, they know that if we are having a conversation, serious, joking, whatever, if we're interacting, we are having eye contact. So if you're practicing active listening with your kids, have eye contact, hear their words, feel their feelings, and keep your eyes open for the unspoken messages. My daughter's good for this. My daughter's 11. She's heading into middle school. And I know there's something more when Maya tells me something. I can see it in her eyes, a little twitch in her cheek. I can see it in her body language and how she approaches me. I can see it in her moving her foot a little bit on the floor while she's talking. I can see these unspoken messages that allow me to be an active listener. As I'm engaged in this conversation, I'm an active listener. I can pick up on these cues. Dads, this is going to be extremely important for you as your kids grow up. In order to build trust with your kids need to know that you are listening to them and that they can listen to you. That what the feedback that you give them, the insight that you're speaking into their life is coming from a place of knowing what's going on, even though they don't have to say it. And then it takes us into an opportunity to ask the right questions. And that's a whole nother skill we'll get into in another episode, is asking the right questions so you can figure out what's really going on with your kids. So the third simple step, practice active listening. Be a more intentful listener. Put some intent behind it. Make eye contact. Pick up the visual cues. Don't echo back what they're saying, but ask them deeper questions in your conversation. And of course, this ties into number 1 and number 2. If you are engaging and appreciating what they're interested in, and you are spending one-on-one time together, you are going to have opportunities, plenty of opportunities to practice being an active listener. So those are the first 3 steps. Simple step number 5, create shared traditions. Build memories that the both of you will cherish. My son, he said something to me the other day. We've done a couple of things where he thought it was absolutely hilarious. We were camping and he's got a little bike. So my son, he's 9. So he has a little bike. He's got a brand new bike for his birthday, but brand new to him, it's used, but he has this new bike, 27.5-inch wheels, extra small frame. So it looks pretty big for him, but he's loving it. He can roll over roots and rocks and everything. That's beside the point. But what it also allowed, I jumped on his bike and I'm sitting on the seat of his bike while he was on it. He looked at me like, "What are you doing, Dad?" So he's holding on the handlebars, his feet are on the pedals. I sit on the seat and I grab him around the waist and I lift my feet. I'm like, "Go." And he starts dying laughing. So he's like, you picture this. I'm 6'5", 225, and this 9-year-old boy is pumping his legs to move this bike up this hill. And it wasn't a big hill, it was a little bit. And so we started doubling around. While Braylon is dying laughing, I can see the joy in his eyes. And something as simple as that, this is what he says. We get back to the campsite. We're sitting by the fire. And he starts chuckling. He's like, "When I have kids, Dad, I'm going to tell them that I did this with my dad." Man, I'm going to tell you right now. Like, I'm getting emotional right now. How hard was that? How hard was that to create a shared memory? Now, that might not become a shared tradition that we do all the time, but it'll be something that he will bring up over and over, and something that I am now aware of, and I will jump on his bike more often. But these simple memories will just shape your relationship with your kids and strengthen that relationship so much. And it doesn't have to be elaborate. It could be, taking that one-on-one time, combining it with this shared memory and creating tradition. Maybe it's that you go on your dad date, and the one thing you do every time you do your dad date where you're walking the dog is you sneak over to McDonald's and you grab a little small ice cream cone on your way home. And that's just something you and your kid do. Like, I remember doing that as a kid. I remember going to work with my dad in the night, but one thing we would always do was listen to a hockey game on the radio and buy a hot dog from Max. Like that's what we did. I remember that. I love it. So every time, this is kind of gross, but every time I walk into a convenience store and I can smell the hot dogs on that roller, my brain instantly goes back to these times with my dad. I want you to create shared traditions. They don't have to be elaborate, just something small. Is it a workout in the morning? Is it a walk the dog with the one-on-one time? Is it a weekly trip to the ice cream shop? Is it you go for an overnight father-son, father-daughter camping trip and backcountry hike? That is something I would love to implement in our life, but we have not done yet. So create shared traditions. All right. The 5th one, I say it's a simple step, but there's a fine line. There's a fine line between making this impactful and making this hurtful. And that is provide consistent affirmation. Regularly remind them of their value and of your love for them. That's what I mean about words of affirmation. Provide consistent affirmation. Affirmation is not telling your kids, "Oh, wow, you're so smart. Oh, wow, you're so beautiful. Oh, wow, you're so good looking. Oh, wow, you're so strong. Oh, wow, you're so good at this. Oh, wow, you're a great basketball player." Oh, wow. That is not what I mean. Because I personally believe that positive feedback in a period of growth comes from an affirmation of, "Oh, wow, you worked hard on that. Wow, that's a beautiful piece of art. You must have spent a lot of time focused and working through that. Wow, that must have been hard for you to compete one-on-one in that game, but you kept your composure. You worked hard and look at the outcome." That's where I affirm with my kids. But I'm talking about affirmation of value and affirmation of love. And here's the part that makes this simple, guys. Tell me right now, if you've been listening, Steps 1, engaging in their interests. Step 2, having a regular one-on-one date. Step 3, creating shared traditions. Practice active listening is a fourth one. Tell me if you're doing those 4 things that you're not providing consistent affirmation. If you are doing those 4, the 5th one will follow. You will regularly remind them of your love for them and their value, their personal value, the value they bring to your family, the value they bring to their community, the value they bring to their school and to their friends. Guys, you have an opportunity to lead, an opportunity to lead as an example for your children. And it all comes from building stronger relationships with our kids. It can be hard work. It can be deep work. But I hope that these 5 simple steps have just given you an idea of where you can start this week. Is your 1% engaging in their interests? Is it sitting down and having an awkward conversation about something you don't understand, like Minecraft or bouldering? Is that your 1%? Is your 1% a walking the dog or going with your kid to the park on a one-to-one date? Is it planning something that you can do together that's going to create a shared tradition? Is it active listening? Instead of always giving feedback or telling them what to do or giving your opinion of a situation, ask them more questions. See where they're coming from. Hear their words, feelings, and unspoken messages. Is that your 1% this week? Or is your 1% this week to let your kids know you love them? Man, I can't tell you how many episodes that we've done, how many of our guests have said in their past, their fathers at some point never said they loved them. You know, most recently I did an interview, and it'll be coming out soon, talking about wounds and dad issues with an amazing guest, actually 2 guests who talked about this that will come out in the next couple of weeks. And they say, my dad never really said, I knew he loved me, but he never really said it. Well, this is your opportunity, men, to say it. And not only say it, but to show it. So step up, be a dad making a difference. Implement these 5 simple steps this week. Show me. Here's the accountability part of this, guys. You can listen to this, and I hope it's valuable to you. And if it is valuable to you, you need to share this conversation, this episode, with somebody who needs to hear it, someone who needs to step up, someone who needs to be challenged. But also know that when I say you need to step up, isn't me judging you. It's a challenge to you. It's a challenge to myself. I'm not going to get on here and give you these 5 steps and not do this myself. And I want to be there with you each step of the way, in our community, online, here with the DMD podcast. So if you're out there, you happen to be sharing this or taking a picture, share it on social media, send it to me. Man, you can tag me at Dad's Making a Difference on Instagram. You could go just find me, Cameron Hall, on Facebook. Easy to do. LinkedIn, I'm there too. Tag me. Share it with me. I would love to celebrate you and your 1% accomplishments this week as you implement 5 simple steps for strengthening your relationships with your kids. I appreciate you, man. I'm glad that you're here. Go like, subscribe, and please leave a review of this podcast. Give it 5 stars if it deserves it. Tell the people about it. We want to create more traction as we're heading into this fall. Man, we're building. Every month, our downloads are going up. More men are hearing this message, and more men are being challenged to become a dad, making a difference. Until next week, we'll talk soon.